important to remind that and the meaning and value of the blessing. Mr. Josef Gundacker for his actually last session of this lecture series. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me share my screen again. I hope you see it. Okay, yeah. Now I will talk about the source of our life, or the question about God. In our society, the subject of faith, of prayer, and God is still very much a taboo. For many people, there seems to be a great danger of falling into areas of the undefinable, the unfathomable, the non-scientific. We are constantly told that religion is a private matter. Modern dictionaries define religion as belief in God or gods to be worshipped, as any specific system of belief, of worship, often involving a code of ethics. In Christianity and other monotheistic religions, God is the creator and ruler of the universe and the source of all moral authority, the supreme being. That implies that we as human beings have no freedom and responsibility. Friedrich Schleiermacher in the late 18th century defined religion as the feeling of absolute dependence. The Bible describes God as an immaterial being, a spirit that is far superior to us and cannot be grasped with our physical senses. For atheists, he is only a concept of our consciousness, a figment of the human mind. Considering all those contradicting concepts and belief systems, we shouldn't be surprised that people turn away and want to have nothing to do with such gods. And in fact, all those concepts and ideas of God are not very helpful to understand the real nature of God and to find a relationship with him. If you have any of these concepts of God, please put them aside for a moment. I will approach the question of God in a different and maybe unconventional way. Because the question remains, who is that creator? Who created the universe, including us as human beings? And what is his nature? When the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche stated that God is dead, God remains dead and we have killed him. He actually confirmed the reality of God. What do we say when a relationship is broken? We say the relationship is dead. And Nietzsche lamented then, how shall we comfort ourselves? The murderers of all murderers. What was holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. Who will wipe this blood of us? Who is now that God, our origin? And what is his nature? When it says in the Bible, in Genesis 1:27, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. What does it mean? There's a common belief that new babies look like their father or their mother. Children resemble their parents in a natural way. A child inherits the appearance and personality from the parents. And in the same way, we should think about our relationship with our origin, with God. In 1 Corinthians 3:16 we read, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you. If we take this thought to its logical conclusion, then we humans have inherited the form and personality of our Creator. Therefore, it is natural that the origin of our life, God, is our heavenly parent. Reverend Moon said many times, the parent-child relationship is the fundamental axis of the universe. It is a relationship between God and humanity. And he said, God and human beings have a parent-child relationship. How do we come to this conclusion? You may think that the parent-child relationship here refers to the relationship between your physical mother and father and yourself. That is a relationship centered on human morals and ethics. But that is not what I'm talking about. The parent-child relationship between God and human beings united in heart is multidimensional. God created the universe in order to have a relationship of love between parent and child. The root of the universe, therefore, is the parent-child relationship. Since you are connected to the root of the universe, you need to become a parent and also a son or daughter. Religion came from the Latin word religare, which means to bind. It means, in other words, to connect to bond. The true meaning of religion is therefore to reconnect, to rebuild the relationship with God, to establish a heartistic bond with our origin of life, our heavenly parent. The question of God is therefore not primarily a question if God exists, or a question of faith. It is the question of consciousness. It is a relationship. It is a question how we can become aware of that relationship. No one will doubt that he was born and brought into this world by parents. However, everyone shapes his relationship with his parents personally. Whether you have a good or bad relationship, or no relationship at all, is entirely up to you. Well, let's say no one will doubt nature, but how intensely I perceive and pay attention to nature, or only notice it superficially, is up to me personally. Now, we are faced with a very practical question. The question is, why should I build a relationship with a God who is so superior to me and cannot be grasped, and whom I don't know and nor have seen? Why should I take interest in someone who only wants to dominate me, to control me? That makes no sense. But is it possible that God does not want to dominate us at all, that we enjoy complete freedom? And is it possible that God isn't much interested to be worshipped, but very interested to be loved and to love? How does a father or mother respond to a little child when it says, "I love you, mom and dad"? The parents will respond instantly. Could God be like that too? For to establish a relationship to somebody you don't know, who is foreign to you, I have some practical advice. Don't think about what you want to say. Rather, what God might be interested in. Don't try to get attention from the other, but give your attention to the other. This shifts your attention to a bigger reality, and you discover things you never saw before. And this applies to any relationship, including the relationship to God. In conclusion, if I want to build a relationship with someone, I have to give my time and attention to the other. And the best way to get attention is to ask questions. What are your interests? What are your desires? What are your needs? What can I do for you? For our relationship with God, that means we have to develop our interest in God and learn to pray. So I come now to the very conclusion of this series, and I want to introduce to you something very special. Something which our worldwide movement, the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, is offering. But it is important to understand it correctly. It is the marriage blessing. You might ask, why do I need a blessing? I am content and happy. And when I love somebody and we have a good relationship, why do I need the consent and blessing from God? Yes, a love relationship is a very personal thing. And I don't doubt a moment your motivation. It is very important to take responsibility for one's own life and the relationship. But now, consider a couple of things. First, if we are a child of God, as I said, the blessing from God strengthens the bond and the feeling of exclusivity. Human sexuality involves the whole person, his and her heart, his and her mind, his and her body, and thus the whole of life. Sex is an exclusive experience, a secret shared between the spouses, and it promotes a strong sense of intimacy and emotional security. So, if you want your relationship to be an everlasting one that deepens in time, it has to be grounded in something deeper and everlasting. Then we have to actively seek out this source in order to access it. The source and origin of our life, God, has no meaning if we don't connect with that source. Oneness, the inner harmony, and an everlasting relationship that everyone is so restlessly searching for is actually possible. Why? Because we all have the capability to connect to that source. At the heart of sex is the expression of love that comes from a continuous, committed relationship. And when true love and God is at the center of that relationship, you have the security that it will last forever. Reverend Moon once said, Once a couple is married, they do not like interference from others. After marriage, when man and woman are united, they feel happy and content. At the time, if a second man or woman interferes, it presents a danger that the couple's unified energy will be disturbed. So there is a repulsion. In a similar way, electricity functions smoothly when plus and minus interact. But if plus and plus come into proximity, or minus and minus, there is a repulsion. All existing beings function in this way. By the same law, a good relationship between man and woman brings stability and joy. The protective energy accelerates the perfection of the couple so they can live eternally. Second, the blessing of marriage represents the harmonization of opposites. Deep in the inner core of the marital sexual relationship lies hidden the most challenging dynamic of life. In marriage, we can recognize that we as individuals are not fully human, but that we lack something, that we are only man or only woman. We are thus in the greatest field of tension, the greatest polarity of human life. From the first moment of our lives, we long for physical, emotional, and spiritual union with the other pole. Being a couple means practicing one's own capacity for love and relationship in the diversity of the other. It means taking full responsibility for oneself and the relationship with the other. It is the most consistent way of expanding oneself and accepting the other. And again, when this is grounded in true love and connected to the source of life, that harmonization of the opposites is possible. Reverend Moon stated, both man and woman have a place that is the Holy of Holies, which is more precious, life or love, no matter how much life there is. Neither a man's life nor a woman's life can take the place of love. Therefore, love is the most precious in life. Through marriage and the meeting of their reproductive organs, two half beings become complete. Man becomes complete through woman's love. Woman becomes complete through man's love. They become one through true love. In that place, two lives come together as one with love at the center. From this place comes sons and daughters. If the reproductive organs did not exist, parents, husbands and wives, and sons and daughters would be of no value. Since this place is that precious, the treasure of treasures, it is kept under lock and key, hidden from public view for an entire lifetime. And third, and I feel most importantly, the blessing is precious because marriage is a place of inner healing. From childhood, we have been taught that only the right prince has to meet the right princess and live happily ever after. Mostly, however, these fairy tales end on the wedding day. Marriage is not a magic elixir to happiness and well-being. The purpose of marriage is always to balance the inner conflicts of the two partners. Thus, marriage is a place of deep healing and discovering of true giving love. Although the inherent possibilities of an intimate encounter are all-encompassing and profound in marriage than in any other form of relationship. Nowhere do our deficits emerge more clearly than in a committed, lasting partnership. The author, Eva Maria Zuhorst, calls the intimate relationship and marriage a kind of elite university of life. And she says, this is where we face the most difficult tests, where we can learn and grow the most, but also where we can receive the most. So, to be grounded in something deeper and something wider than ourselves, to be grounded in true love, our inner blocks can be released, our hurts can heal, and we overcome the inner split between our longing and reality. These are the major reasons to consider a blessing seriously. With these thoughts, I will end today's presentation. Please, for more information, turn to your local community. Of course, I'm also happy to hear from you of your response. You can also write to me. Thank you now for attention.